Hi, all my beautiful, wonderful people. My name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. And sorry for the long awaited video. I got sick at the beginning of April and so I ended up not filming anything. And then last week was spring break and so I was just off my schedule. So I'm slowly getting back into it. Sorry for the long wait. I was just about to make this disclaimer. My son, Pistachio, my love of my life, is psycho crazy this morning. He got spirits in his head and they won't go. Currently jumping in and out of a box that we gave him to play with. You'll hear cat noise playing in the background, but yeah. So hello, hi. Today's video, we are going to do a quarter, what I've read for the first quarter of the year, vlog, book, wrap up. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't want to do monthly wrap ups because I feel like that gives me too much pressure to read a ton every month. But every 3 months, I feel like I should have a decent stack of things to talk about. So I have both my notebook and the books on my desk that I've read. My notebook just for the order that I've read things in, as well as my what library books I've read and returned already. So the first things I read in 2024 in January was The Abandoned Empress Volume 2, as well as Abandoned Empress Volume 3. And then I also read 4 and 5 from the library. And later on, I bought 6 and read 6. But I'm going to talk about them all together. But basically, this is a manhwa series that follows it's an isekai, sort of. So essentially, our main character is from this world, but the events leading to her death in her previous life were awful, horrific. And she dies horribly, and she basically vows that if she gets a chance to do it again, she is going to do it all different. And she's reborn as her 10-year-old self. And when she is reborn, she goes to the temples basically and asks the gods, why did this happen to me? And I did everything that you said to do. I did everything that everybody told me to do. I was the perfect person, basically. And they're like, well, we fucked up, so your life is just screwed because of our mistake, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so she becomes pissed, rightfully so, and she vows to just be her own person. And we are following her over the course of the series as she's like growing up. She, in volume 6, I think she's closer to like, she's like more of a teenager, but more leaning into like young adult-ish, like 20s. I think by the time we get to volume 7, it's been a while since I read these, honestly. Like I said, I read them in January, it's now April. But it's fun so far. I'm really enjoying it. There's 3 main love interests that you kind of have. I'm rooting for Carson, him, this one. I don't think he's going to end up getting it in the end. I think in the end, she's going to still end up with the fun time. I'm enjoying it. The art is beautiful. The art is stunning. The volumes themselves are pretty expensive. So maybe see if you can check it out from your library if you can, because I don't think it's not an all-time favorite, but the art is super pretty. And I do think I'm going to finish collecting it just slowly. And yeah, that's why some of it that I already bought and I had physically, I read physically, and then I bought the rest, or I read the rest from the library. My library just didn't have volume 6, so that's why I bought volume 6 so I could get caught up. But volume 7 comes out in June or July, I believe. The next thing I read in January is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, and this was really cute. I had started this book a long time ago, but just never finished it. Another victim of my, you'll hear this a lot, a victim of my reading 5 books at the same time, but only actually finishing 3 and then forgetting about like 4 and 5. I do that all the time. I'm currently doing that right now. I'm in the middle of like 6 books and I just finished my first one from that for April, so yeah. But I reread this at the beginning of the year. It was really good. It was really quiet. The beginning of this book, I will say, is a little slow. It takes a while. You have a lot of POVs. You have a lot of things that you're learning about. But when the ending happens, the ending, from the halfway point to the ending, is just so amazing and magical. Not a 5-star for me, but like really, really close. And I'm very much interested in reading more things by Kelly Barnhill. I know she has a book called When Women Were Dragons that I'm interested in reading. She also has a book called The Orphan and the Ogress that I also am interested in reading. So those are some things by Kelly Barnhill. Again, this was really good. I definitely recommend it if you are a middle grade reader. The next thing I read that I don't have a physical copy for, sadly, I would like to own this series one day, the entire series, but especially this first book, and that is Every Heart a Dory by Shauna McGuire. I have been hearing about this series on BookTube for many, many years, and I always said I would read it and never did. And then I saw it at my library. I had bought it for our personal collection at my library, and I was like, you know what, let me read this book finally. And I did. It's so short, it's so easy. I basically read it in a day. It's so good. It's my first like horror book I've ever read too. And I would say the horror in this is very like mild, but for somebody like me who doesn't read any horror, it has I would say caught my interest into wanting to read more horror. I think this book is masterfully done. I think it's well done. I love this whole ideal of children that don't fit in this world finding portal worlds like Wonderland, like Narnia, adjacent worlds where they can go and live and prosper, and how all of these worlds are not necessarily rainbow and sunshine, but still are perfect for the child that they are letting into that world. Kaide, him, love him so much. Also, there's so much queer representation in these books, at least in this first one. I've read the second one in April, so I can't talk about it now, but there was queer representation in that. So I assume queer representation is going to be a theme throughout all these books that I really enjoyed. But this first one especially, I really enjoyed this one a lot. So if you've been hesitant on picking it up, I say it lives up to the hype. I think it's really good. I think the writing is beautiful. There's a specific line in the book that I just absolutely love. I'll put it on the screen here. Yeah, I think it was wonderful. Currently, right now, Every Heart a Dory is my favorite read of this entire year. The next thing I read is very different. I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang. What do I say about this? This is 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight, but like, at least the love the love interest, like the love style, like the brooding millionaire man heroine, or whatever. He's not a heroine. That would be the girl. Hero, whatever. Is very much Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey, but a lot less of the okay for toxic behavior. Like he tries to do like the whole like, I'm a big man with money, I can control your friend group and I can stalk you and stuff. And she's like, no, you can't. Like, try. And she sticks up for herself a lot better than I think the actual heroines in the books that I'm comparing this to do. And so it was fun because I feel like this poked fun at those types of stories and made it like show that you can have those types of stories but not be so toxic. I'm not a crazy big fan of Alex and Ava. I like Ava more. I don't really care for Alex. That's just not my type of hero that I enjoy in a story. Like I would rather a different type of like male main character. But I think the series was good overall. I have a video that I'm planning to do where I need to read the second book in this series for that video. So I wanted to go ahead and read the first book, which is Twisted Love. So Twisted Games is actually the one that I'm going to read for that video that I have in my brain that I want to do. I've heard it's really good. It was highly recommended by the person that I'm doing the video for. Anyway, yeah, so that's why I read it. It was fun. It was a really easy read. Not much to say besides that. I see why Anna Huang is a beloved romance author, because I think she does the genre well and plays into the tropes without making them like, oh my god, everything is a walking red flag and I don't understand how I'm supposed to root for anything here. Like she plays into those tropes and but makes it better. I think that's what I'm going for. The next thing I read is also something that I checked out from my library that I worked at, and that is Our Dining Table. This is a one-shot manga. It's a BL. It's so sweet, so cute. I had been seeing it on so many people's like to read lists, like recommended manga lists, and I understand why. I honestly wish there was more. Like, I wish we had more. It's a very cute series about these two older guys who, one works in like the corporate setting, very mundane life, very boring life. He makes himself the same lunch every single day because it's the only thing he knows how to make. And the other guy, the love interest, he takes care of his younger brother after his mom passes and to help out his dad, and he works. He decided not to go to college, so in order to help his family. And it's about their romance and their relationship and their connection, and the other guy forms a good relationship with his little brother, and it's really cute and it's just adorable, and it was very sweet and very wholesome and just nice. I really enjoyed it. It's really fun. The next thing I read is probably my favorite manga that I've read this year so far, and that is the Yakuza Bias. I read volume 1 and I read volume 2. Both, that's all that's out currently. It's very shiny, very reflective. Okay, y'all know I'm a K-pop girly. I'm a K-pop girly. Okay, I love some K-pop. I love it. I love it. I've been a fan since high school, and I will probably be a fan until I die. This manga series is what being a K-pop like fan is all about, in the non-toxic way. Like, I feel like there's so many things that like just show K-pop fandom in a toxic way, but this is K-pop fandom as it should be. And so essentially what this is about is this Yakuza guy. He is defending or like protecting his boss's daughter, and his boss's daughter basically gets him into her favorite K-pop group, and he becomes obsessed with Jin. He starts thinking of him as like, he just comes obsessed with him, loves him, starts buying all the merch, going to all the concerts. You see him go to his first like fan meeting or a fan interaction with him, and he's like crying afterwards because he can't believe he met Jin. And it's just really sweet and really wholesome, and it's just funny because it's like a Yakuza bias, and I don't know. I just really, really, really enjoyed it. I was laughing and having a good time. You guys know I love to collect photo cards. Specifically, is one of my favorite things to do in the K-pop community. And there's a point in here where she is explaining to him how to like buy photo cards, where to buy them from, and another member of their like gang hears them talking about it, and he's like, oh my god, is he getting her to buy drugs? Like, are they talking about the drug market? Like, why is he showing her the black market of drugs and stuff? And then he walks in and he's like, why are you like doing this? Like, why are you teaching her about drugs? And they're like, we're buying photo cards. And I just was like crying at work. I thought it was so funny. I think this is my type of humor. That's all I gotta say. I think this is so funny and so good, and it's just perfect. They are a little bit expensive volumes. They're $13 each, but in my personal opinion, it is well worth it. I think they were so good and so funny. So funny. The next thing I read is the opposite of the Yakuza bias. It is not happy. It is not fun. And that is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I think I've talked about this book a lot on my channel already. This book is just depressing. I still can't quite decide how I feel about this book. I do stand by what I said originally, which is Watch Over Me is my favorite. And I think I gave Watch Over Me a 4-star, and I think I was gonna give this a 4-star too, but that makes me feel like I need to reread Watch Over Me, because I feel like Watch Over Me would, if I give this a 4-star, would deserve a 5-star or a 4.5 star, because this is not on the same level as Watch Over Me for me. Story, we basically followed this girl after she loses her grandfather, and we start following her basically almost 6 months after the incident, after she's basically cut off everybody she's known from home, and she just leaves and goes to college. And then it's now Christmas break, and one of her her former friend and love interest from her hometown comes to visit her on campus during Christmas break. And we learn a lot of things. We learn about what happens to her grandfather. We kind of learn why she left. It's a lot about grief and self-discovery, and it's a lot of heavy topics going into this. So this is definitely one that I recommend looking up lots of trigger warnings for. I always recommend looking up trigger warnings just in case you need them, because what might be a trigger to me might not be a trigger to you, and so on and so forth. So just take care of yourself, and there's no shame in taking care of yourself. But yeah, this one was very heavy, and like I said, I feel like every time I talk about this book, I'm like not quite sure what to say. It is good in the sense of the message that it is portraying, and we don't get a lot of books like this where I feel like we're talking so deeply and so raw about grief and what it's like to lose somebody that important and that pivotal to you, and also to feel like once you've lost them, you've never actually truly knew who they were ever. This book just has a lot of good discussions. I am just not smart enough to be able to talk about how great this book is in sense of a writing aspect, but also at the same time I felt like there were a lot of things that I think this book could have stand to be maybe 50-ish more pages. I wouldn't say a full 100, but I think there were certain parts we could have done with a little bit more. And I'm going to leave it at that. The next book I finished is Financial Feminist by Tori Dunlap. I have talked about this book at length on my channel. I think this is a very fantastic book. Don't be scared away by the word feminist. I know a lot of people look at the word feminist and have a mental breakdown. I think she does a good job of talking about finance from a multitude of different perspectives, but mainly focusing on money from the women and the misogynistic lens of that of which money is taught, and therefore but also not taught to women, and the gender differences in how we decide to teach women about money versus how we teach men about money, as well as she gives a lot of just I think good advice. And as you can tell, I annotated the living crap out of this book. I wrote in it a lot to kind of get down my thoughts. There's a lot of journaling prompts in here, and even when I think about this book from a outside of just the money aspect, this book has helped me recenter my focus on what I care about in life a lot more. It's helped me kind of visualize what my dream life would be, because for a long time, and still now, I'm not gonna say I am completely cured. I started to I've always had this problem where every so often I start to lose sight of it's probably the depression if I'm honest, anyway, but lose sight of why I'm here, what's the point of me being alive, which sounds really morbid and messed up, but stay with me. So I mean, things can be very monotonous and oh my god, I have to go to work again, and I have to do this thing again, and I have to deal with this person again, and I hate this person, I don't want to deal with this person. But this book started igniting in me oh, but if you keep working, yes, you don't like working right now, and you don't really like this job that you're doing, but if you work hard, you can get to this point. If you learn how to manage your money a little bit better, maybe you can work a little less in the future, or find a different job that you enjoy a little bit more. And I don't know, she has this concept in here called, think of she calls it imagine what Nana you would be doing. And so that is an image that I had never thought about before. I never thought about what the grandma version of me would be doing in a couple years. I say a couple years, but I'm only 20, but in 30, 40 years. And I was oh my god, Nana Lexi would volunteer at the library a lot because she loves her libraries, as she does now. And she would just spend her time reading and spend time at home with her cats and her partner, and would probably have a little garden and just chill at home in her home that she's curated with stuff that she enjoys and loves, with the people she enjoys and loves. And I was that's what Nana Lexi would do. She's not going on crazy grand adventures. She's not doing anything Super Psycho. She did that. She's already done that. She did that in her 20s, her 30s, her 40s, in her 50s and 60s. She's chilling at home. She watching her friends' kids, their grandkids. She's taking care of her cats, her partners, reading books, going to the library, you know, the shebang. And yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it was very helpful. I got a lot of good recommendations for other books. She also has a lot of other financial experts that she trusts do inserts in here. So there's a lot of information for like low income, and there's a lot of information about like how it affects BIPOC individuals and LGBTQ individuals and so on and so forth. And the other thing that I think I really enjoyed about this was Tori talks about how she ended up going to college for debt free, but part of it was her parents had a little bit of money saved up for her. But the other part was that she worked, I think, 3 different jobs while she was going to school in order to pay for herself to go to school. So she worked 3 jobs. So like, she just wasn't handed like millions of dollars and then is now telling us like, here, I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. But she does also acknowledge that there are like other things that she had the privilege to, like her parents taught her different things about money that like most people that she's learned didn't have the privilege of learning from their parents. I enjoyed this, as you can tell. I do recommend listening to her podcast, Her First 100K, just to see if you like her style of speech, because she very much writes this the way she talks on her podcast. So if you don't enjoy the podcast, don't read the book because you're not going to enjoy it. But if you do enjoy the podcast, read the book because it's very much helpful. I enjoy it a lot. The next thing I read is The Girl from the Sea, which was a cute little sapphic graphic novel that I picked up from the library, and it had seals. The girl, the main love interest is a Selkie, and which means she can transform into a person and a seal, and it was just great. It was very cute, very sweet, not groundbreaking in any way, but very sweet and very cute. I recommend if you want a short, sweet, cute, queer time. Okay, the next thing I read is one of the most disappointing things I think I've read this year, and that is Host Club. I read volumes 1, 2, and 3, also from the library. And volume 1, I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of that old nostalgia. I am an old school anime girl. I remember my friend showing me like the anime on Netflix, and at the time there was like 3. It was literally like, well, there was a little bit more than 3, but like the 3 main ones was Soul Eater, which was my first anime and my favorite, and I still love Soul Eater to this day. I've actually never read it, so I should probably read it before I say that. But I also then after that watched Host Club and Fruits Baskets. And Host Club, I remember, was one that I liked, and I feel like a lot of people liked back in the day. And so I always have wanted to read it in the same vein that I've always wanted to read like Soul Eater. And so I decided like, fudge it, like let's try to read it. And like I said, the first volume brought back a little bit of that old nostalgia. The second volume, I was just like, no, I'm not having this. And then the third volume, I was just like, no, I had to drag myself through it. And like, manga is not usually that hard for me to read. I mean, it's not that long. And usually I'm very interested in whatever manga I pick up. And I was just slogging through that third volume of Host Club, and I am so sorry. I know this is a beloved series. Honestly, I debated whether I was going to even include this in my like 1,000-book project, or if I was going to include it in my videos, because I was like, everybody's going to hate me because I was just like, I don't like this. I'm not enjoying this. I'm not having a good time. It's just not it for me. It literally went from being a 3-star to a 2-star to a 1-star, and I was like, no, no. But I did read it, and for authenticity purposes, I've done it, I've read it, I'm including it in here. It just was not it for me. I just, no besties. The next thing I read, because after Host Club, I was basically in a reading slump for the rest of February. At the beginning, or like near the end of February, at the beginning of March, I picked up Winnie the Pooh, which is a reread from last year. I read Winnie the Pooh for the first time last year, and I really enjoyed it. It's so sweet. It's so cute. I love it so much. It's a classic for a reason, and it's just good vibes, and it's just so cute, and Pooh is a silly old bear. I don't know what else to say about it. I feel like everybody knows what Winnie the Pooh is about. It's very, the stories within here are very episodic. They're like basically little short stories about Pooh and different adventures him and Christopher Robin go on. I think the choice in how this story is narrated is also very interesting, because you start from like the perspective of a dad telling these stories to his child, to it just being the stories itself, to then ending again with a dad and his child talking about these stories. And it's just very sweet and very cute to me. I also had the realization when I was reading this the second time around that Tigger's not in here at all. And I was like, wait a minute. I know that Tigger is a part of the original cast. Like, Disney didn't just make up Tigger. So where is Tigger? And then I realized that there are 2 more books in the Winnie the Pooh series. So I need to read those. And actually the other day when we went to the library, because my partner surprised me with a date to the library, I tried to find them, but they didn't have them. They only had the OG Winnie the Pooh, which is fine, but I'm like, excuse me, I need the other 2 books. But yeah, that was a reread. Highly enjoyed it, really loved it. It was great. Next we have, again, one of my favorite books from this year, which is With the Fire on High. Also, all these books for March were a part of Realmathon, so Winnie the Pooh, this, and I actually think, I don't know where my Realmathon reading. Anyway, but With the Fire on the High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I love this book. I love it, love it, love it, love it. I highly recommend you please read it. Please read it. I don't really think there are any trigger warnings, but just in case, look them up. But I loved it. It was so great. We follow Imani, who is a teen mom, and we follow her throughout her senior year. But Imani is also a cook. She loves to cook, and her food is magical, and basically not really magical, but like magical, okay? But her senior year, she is trying to figure out what she's gonna do, because all her friends are talking about applying to colleges, but Imani has baby girl, and she's like, what do I do with Emma? Like, should I go to college? Should I just work? Like, I don't know what to do. And she doesn't want to rely on her abuela as much anymore, because her grandmother has been basically taking care of her entire life. After her mom died, her dad just kind of bounced. I don't have the same freedom that all my friends have in all these decisions. But at the same time, her school offers her senior year a culinary class, and she is so ecstatic about the opportunity to finally get to properly learn cooking. And so she decides to take this class, and there's a new kid in school, and he and her kind of hit it off, and they become friends, but slightly more than friends, but basically just friends. And baby girl's so cute. Abuela also has a new love interest and she's being loved, and there's just so many things. It was just so cute. It's so good. I think this does a good job of showing that just because you got pregnant early doesn't mean that your life is over. I feel like there's always, like, yes, would her life have been easier? And she talks about that. She's like, yes, if I didn't have baby girl, my life would be easier. If I decided to not go to full term and have baby girl, some of these decisions would be easier for me to make. But she never once regrets having baby girl. And I think that is the most important takeaway from this book, because I think often there's this feeling of no hope. Girls that get pregnant super early, I feel like there's always this like negative connotation. I think having a book like this where you see that she understands the difficulties of her response, but she's also finding ways to not have to compromise her values and the things that she wants to do and cares about doing. But you also see that it does take a community. It's not just Imani raising baby girl. I mean, she has her abuela. Later on, we see that her dad becomes a little bit more a part of the story. I don't want to spoil it for you, but he starts helping out a little bit. Her ex, his family is not the greatest, and I could punch them in the face, but they do help with taking care of baby girl. Every Heart a Doorway and With the Fire on High are definitely gonna, I'm like 99.9% sure that they're gonna end up in my favorite books of this year. They're just so good. I just really, really love them. I think they are wonderfully done, masterfully done books. Okay, the next book I read, I just realized that I lied to you earlier. We will talk about Down Among the Sticks and Bones, because I did finish it. I finished it at the very end of March. I finished it on the 31st. I thought I finished it like April 1st or like April 2nd, but I finished it at the very end of March. But anyway, the next book I read is The Little Prince. This is a reread. This is my all-time favorite book. This is my number one. This is my book. If you think about me, think about this book, or Kristen Kishore. That's fine too. I won't say no to that either, but this is my all-time favorite book. I love The Little Prince. I reread it like once a year since I read it for the first time in 2019. So it's been like, I think this is like my 6th or 7th. Sometimes I read it twice a year. I don't know. I've read this book a lot. I've read this book a lot. And every time I read it, I feel like there's a new takeaway and a new magic to it. I don't know. I love this book so much. And this time when I read it, it gave me the same tingles and the same wanderlust for life and nostalgia and just everything that I got the first time I read this book. I just absolutely love it. I highly recommend this book and this series. And well, I guess it's not a series. I don't know why I said series, but I just really recommend this book. I know it's a classic. I know most people have read it. I just think it's magical. Like this. I never wanted to do you any harm, but you insisted that I tame you. Yes, of course, the fox said. But you're going to weep, said the little prince. Yes, of course, the fox said. Then you get nothing out of it. I get something, the fox said, because of the color of the wheat. Then he added, go look at the rose. You'll understand that yours is the only rose in all the world. And then come back to say goodbye, and I'll make you the gift of a secret. Of course, an ordinary passerby would think that my rose looked just like you, but my rose, all on her own, is more important than all of you together, since she's the one I've watered, since she's my rose. And then, of course, the most iconic thing in this entire book. Here is my secret. It's quite simple. One sees clearly only with the heart. Anything essential is invisible to the eyes. Specifically the fox. I would say the best way to explain this is the little prince goes on a journey and he meets a whole bunch of companions, and this book is the story of all his companions and his thoughts on them and what he kind of learned from each companion. And the fox is my favorite. I love the story of the fox and the little prince so much. I want a tattoo for it one day. One day I would plan on having like a book sleeve of like just all my favorite books, like little motifs. But yeah, anyway, that was The Little Prince. Let me stop talking about it. Next thing I did was get caught up on all the volumes that I own of A Sign of Affection. Hold on, I read volumes 4, 5, and 6, and I love it. The story is just so cute. They are so cute and so wholesome, and it was just such a fun time. I think volume 7 is out currently in English, and I just need to read it. I need to find it and read it and just gobble it up. I don't think 8 is out yet, but I'm just in love. The story is so sweet, so cute. If you don't know what the story is about, it's basically about these two this couple that's in high school, or not high school, they're in college, and they meet on the train one day. She's on the train and a foreigner comes up to her, starts talking to her, and tries to, you know, ask her for directions, try to get her help. But she is deaf and she can't hear him, she can't understand him, and when she tries to read his lips, she can tell he's not speaking Japanese, and she's just like, I'm sorry, like I can't help you, and she shows her hearing aid, and he comes in, saves the day, helps the foreigner, gets him on his way, and he then noticed that she also has a hearing aid, and then they kind of hit it off, and it's about them being friends. She starts teaching him the sign language, and it's just cute, and they have a cute little relationship, and they're just adorable. I love them. Again, one that I highly recommend. The anime for that is actually, I think season 1 is done now, so like if you don't want to read the manga, you can definitely check out the anime, because I watched the first like 3 or 4 episodes of the anime, and it was basically spot on to the book or to the manga. So like literally so good. Have a good time. Have a cool, nice little scream-worthy romance. The next book I read was kind of a disappointment. Is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I love a good children's classic, and I would consider this one to kind of be like more of a modern children's classic. I feel like it had a lot of things it was trying to do, but I don't feel like anything was well done. I don't know if it was just the time when I read it, if I just wasn't completely invested in the story. I don't know what it was. Part of me wants to read it again in the future, and I might eat my words now by saying that I didn't really like it. But for now, I didn't really care for it. So our main character here, we were following him. His mom has terminal cancer and she is dying, and he is not coping well. He is cutting everybody out. His parents also got divorced right around the time that she got cancer, and so he despises his dad, and there's just a lot of layers to this story. And the art in here, I would say, does definitely add to. I think the art is very well done. There was something missing for me. I do think it's really good, and I do think that, like, maybe for a different person or a different, like not me, somebody might enjoy it a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like I missed something. Like, I missed something very, very important when reading this. And like I said, I think I'm gonna try reading it again at some point. Just for now, it didn't hit anything for me. The next thing that I read, we're on to the last two books that I read for first quarter, and that is, the first one is what is it called again? The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich. This was a cute, just little queer graphic novel, kind of in the same vein as The Girl from the Sea. Yeah, The Girl from the Sea. Kind of the same vein as that. It was just a cute queer romance graphic novel. This one, the main characters are older. The other one, they're more like middle school-ish age, I think. And this one, they're like more either like 18, 19 or early 20s age. It's really cute. My only problem with this is there were like, it was like a fantasy setting, like a courtly kind of setting, like Jane Austen era-ish. But then like the main character was like playing a Switch and like doing things that were like very modern. And the author notes at the end was basically talking about how like this is kind of like the author and her wife's like love story a little bit, kind of, obviously with some liberties, but like the two main characters are based off of her and her wife. And so like I get why they might have added some of these like more modern elements, but like it takes away from like the setting that they were creating in the story of like the counts and the princess and the two, you know, the aesthetic of the time period. And so like I don't know, it just took it away from a little bit, but it was still a fun, good time. A little cheesy. And the very last thing that I finished in the quarter is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire, which is book 2 in the Wayward Children series. The second book and the first book being Every Heart a Door. Didn't like this one as much. Did not like this one as much. I struggle with series because I always feel like I love the first book in a series. If I love the first book in the series, I usually hate the rest of the series, and it's like this curse. Like, I just want to enjoy a series, okay? Why is that so difficult? But I didn't really like the first part of this book. So this book follows Jack and Jill, who are part of the main character cast in Every Heart a Door. They're two twins who ended up going into a portal world and ended up having to come back, and they got sent to the home for wayward children. But the first part of this book follows Jack and Jill's life up until they find the portal and go into their portal world. The second half of the book is about them in the portal world and how they changed and what their life became like, and what they became. First of all, it's a novella, so to split up the book like that, like you already have a limited amount of pages and things to work with in a novella, because just based off of the genre, like the type of book it is, it's already so much shorter. But then you're splitting it over two very different like points in time, and the first part of them being with their parents and like them, so the main part of that was harping on this idea of parents not looking at their children as, you know, their own individuals, their own beings, but more as a personification of what they want. So Jack and Jill were basically from the day they were born, pushed into certain roles and expectations based on what their parents wanted, which obviously didn't vote well for them. It ruined their sisterly bond between the two of them, and which led to the door finding them and all these other things. But sometimes in those moments when we were talking about like just how messed up their parents were for these things, and they were, I'm not saying that they're not, their parents are literally batshit crazy, but like it felt so much like it was so I didn't include this on my list because I didn't read it that much. If I read over like 50% of a DNF, I include it as a book I read. If I read less than 50%, I don't include it as a book I read for a DNF. So a book that I DNF'd during first quarter is the only book I DNF'd actually all year so far is Iron Widow. That book was too much. I'm gonna tell you everything, then show you. I can't still stand the whole I'm telling you everything like that. If I just wanted you to tell me something, I would not be reading your book. I'm just gonna be completely honest. Like, I want a story. I want to see. I want to get my own opinions and my own ideals. And Shauna McGuire did that, but then there were times where she would basically kind of like, they would kind of like hop on a soapbox in the middle of like explaining all these things about their parents, about like, yeah, and so kids, this is why you shouldn't listen to grown-ups, or you see grown-ups, this is why you shouldn't do that. And it wasn't integrated as seamlessly or as nicely as I felt like it could be or should be. I don't know. I didn't really love the first half, but the second half, when they are in the Moor and you are seeing them interact with like the master and the scientist, the doctor guy, I think that part was done brilliantly. It reminded me of everything that I loved about Every Heart a Doorway. I really enjoyed that part of and I loved the queer little romance in it, even if something tragic happens at the very end of that book, which that's the thing, is in like the last like 30-ish pages, shit hits the fan fast in that book. And I was like, oh. And so I wonder if we're gonna know more, because I can't talk about it, but I just wonder if we're gonna get any more from Jack and Jill, because the first book ends in a way that the second book is like a prequel for Jack and Jill and their story in Every Heart a Doorway. And if you read it, you get what I'm saying. So are we gonna get like a part 2 of Jack and Jill's story? Oh no. But like I said, at first I was like, oh crap. When I was reading like the first half of the book, I was like, oh crap, I'm not gonna like this. I'm not gonna want to continue with the story. But then the second half happened and I was like, shit, I love this. I really, really like this. And so I will be continuing reading. I will be reading Beneath the Sugar Sky, I think is the third book. I need to find it from the library. I've read so far everything from the library. I would like to own this series one day because I would like to annotate it, because I think this would be such a fun series to like read and annotate, but I just haven't yet. But yeah, so that's the last book I read. So I have read a lot of things so far this year. I lied to you. There's one book that I forgot, and that is Everything is Okay. This is another graphic novel. It is about depression and anxiety, and this graphic novel is about the author's experience with her depression and her anxiety. And it was very cute, very sweet. A coworker of mine had been wanting me to read it for a long time, and I just hadn't. And I finally actually read it, and it was really sweet. Kind of sad a little bit, but I enjoyed it. It was very helpful for me. Also, I think I mentioned in one of my last, I think it was my last reading vlog, about my struggle with my anxiety and it hindering my ability to sleep. And in this book, she talks about how that was one of her signs that she knew her anxiety was getting worse, because she could and it was the first time I had seen, and I think I mentioned it in the vlog, that I've never seen somebody talk about how like anxiety affects not only your ability to go out and how you interact with the world, but like how you interact with yourself. Like it hinders your ability to sleep, man. Like something so basic and so personally intimate, yet you can't do it because of this raging monster that's inside your brain, basically. And I don't know, that made me feel good. That the book itself didn't really teach me anything or let me know anything about anxiety or depression that I didn't really already know, but it did help me feel seen a bit. And for that reason, I think I gave the book a little bit of a higher rating than I think I normally would give this type of graphic novel, because like I said, it didn't really do anything new for me, but because it had that moment of that representation that I have never seen, I really enjoyed it. So far in Q1, I have read 27 books for the year. So for 2024, we are currently at 27 books for the year. I think that's a good number. That's actually quite a lot more than I was expecting to have at this point in the year, honestly. Oh, there we go. This is everything I've read so far in 2024. So that's the end of the video. This is everything I've read in Q1. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until the next video, I hope you guys stay happy, stay healthy, and keep reading. Bye guys.